Football season is upon us, which means the crossover is about to heat up like an oven. Mike, how you doing?
Oh, 1 week away from college football season. How good is that?
I feel the juices of the 2024 season starting to run through my veins, Mike. I'm ready to run through the tunnel. I've been prepping for fantasy football for the last 3 months.
I have a question for you about that, by the way.
I've been preparing for college football season by playing EA Sports College Football 25 on my new PS5. I'm ready to go. I need to watch some real games because everything has just been either fantasy or virtual reality. I'm ready for the real stuff. But all right, why don't you go ahead and get us started? I know you're chomping at the bit to talk fantasy football with me.
Yeah, so I'm not going to start with fantasy football. Right? I do want to keep most of our listeners, all right? So I'll save that until the end. All right? Let's start with this. College football season is 1 week away. I'm going to make a declaration right now. This will be the most exciting college football season we've ever experienced. And I'm not just talking about locally or in the state. I'm talking about nationally as well, with all the changes, the 12-team playoff, the conference realignment. In the state of Florida, we have all of these in-state rivalry games, UCF, Florida, Florida, Miami, games that we don't normally get to see. This is going to be the most exciting college football season in the history of our lifetimes.
Yeah, you know, you're usually someone that gets drunk on hyperbole before the season starts, before you get let down by reality. And I like to be the voice of reason when you and I have conversations, but I can't do that. I'm with you on this. I think the expanded college football playoff is something that I was originally against, and I feel so married to that take. But honestly, as I look ahead, and I have played this out virtually, what it looks like with the 12-team playoff and the ability to drop a game but pick up steam at the end and beat the right opponents and still find your way in, that's exciting. And that adds a wrinkle to this. UCF has a legitimate chance to win the Big 12. FSU is the favorite to win the ACC. Not only could we see both of those teams in the playoff after this really exciting season, Mike, they would have a first-round bye most likely because they're conference champions in this scenario. So this season, not only is the regular season going to be amazing, we could be set up in this state for one of the best or the best postseason that we've ever seen that's relevant for us in this market. So I'm buzzing off of it. I'm with you. The matchups are great, and what the future has in front of us also has a chance to be great as well. So no, I'm not throwing a bucket of water on that. I saw your friend Matt Murschel share a tidbit on Twitter, if we're talking college football, that the Florida UCF game is the second most anticipated game based on ticket sales for the Swamp. The first one is the first game of the season against Miami, big-time opponent inside the state. It's also the first game of the season, but I think it says a lot that UCF is number 2. My question to you, and really think about this, is which of those two teams wants this win more? Is it UCF? Or is it Florida? And if you want to spin this to the fan bases, that might be the better way to put it, because, you know, these teams kind of work week to week. But which fan base do you think truly wants this win more than the other?
Well, if you were talking about the coaches, Billy Napier not only wants it more than Gus Malzahn, he needs it more than Gus Malzahn, because of Billy Napier. I honestly believe if Billy Napier were to lose the UCF at home in the Swamp, what game is that? The 4th game of this? I don't know what. I think that could be his last game as a coach.
Early October. Yeah. So if he loses that, if he's already lost 1 or 2 and then loses that one, that would be it.
Yeah, I think he could get fired after that game. But we're not talking about Billy Napier, whether he wants it more. We're talking about the fan bases. Come on now. I mean, this is we saw how UCF fans celebrated the victory over the Gators in the Gasparilla Bowl when the Gators had all the opt-outs in the game, and it really wasn't a big game, but it was big for UCF. going into the swamp. UCF with their persecution their historical persecution complex when it comes to all the big three teams in the state, Florida State, and Miami. UCF fans, it means much more to them to win this game. In fact, Gator fans, I just mentioned Billy Napier, they might look at this as, hey, if we lose to UCF, it'll be a great excuse for us to fire Billy Napier right now. So I'm going to go UCF.
Huh? It's a little early in the season to be wanting your team to lose for coaching purposes. There's still a lot of games left to be played after that one. My reasoning for Florida being the answer is they already dropped one to UCF in their most recent meeting. I don't know if Gator fans can withstand another loss to UCF. I don't know if you've noticed, Mike, but UCF fans tend to be a little annoying when they end up achieving some success.
Annoying. Yes. So, all right. You mentioned fantasy football. I've actually started. I know you started your fantasy football research like months ago. I'm starting my fantasy football research this week. I want to know your opinion on running backs. Again, every year it seems like running backs lose their value. There's 2 or 3 running backs who share carries. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey still, maybe the number 1 overall draft pick in fantasy drafts. But other than Christian McCaffrey, what's the running back situation look like? Are they as valuable as they once were? Or should I concentrate more on wide receivers?
I think running backs are still as valuable as they've ever been in fantasy. I think it's harder to peg before the season starts who those guys are going to be, which is why you see them slip in drafts. It's easier to find steals at running back than it was years ago. I think one of the reasons we used to see, if there was a 12-team league, 10 of the first 12 picks would be running backs because you knew who the studs were. These guys that had backfields all to themselves, established starters, and now teams are bringing in, they bring in rotations. Sometimes they ride the hot hand, and they're oftentimes giving the rock to young players that haven't proven anything yet. So I'll use the Rams as an example. Last year was a split backfield going in. Cam Akers was the starter. Kyron Williams was the backup. Kyron Williams was clearly better. He winds up taking over. How are you supposed to know that before going into your draft? So he was a value. Now going into this year, okay, well, Kyron Williams is the guy. Well, except they used a high valuable draft pick to take somebody who's more talented than he is in Blake Corum. So what are you supposed to do with that? I think there's just more confusion at the position, which is what pushes up guys like Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Breece Hall. There's no confusion over those 3 guys. You have some skepticism about the Jets offense. Does Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? Bijan Robinson was a little disappointing based on what people invested in him last year. And that's why Christian McCaffrey stands alone as the only guy that exactly what his role is, exactly how great he is. The wide receiver position has just become more predictable, but no, you still want to invest in running backs. Just do it in a smart way. That'll be my answer.
Early in the draft.
Do it. I like saying, okay, I'm going to take a stab on whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs or I like Saquon Barkley with the Eagles. That's exciting. And then wait a few rounds and then just start taking stabs at these other guys. So there's so many running backs. Like you run a sleeper, Mike? Jalen Wright, rookie with the Miami Dolphins.
He looked good in the first preseason game.
Now, he's going to get no run early in the season, but all he needs is an old running back in Raheem Mostert to fall, or an often injured running back in Devon Achane to fall off and get hurt, and it is to the moon for Jalen Wright. You got me all worked up. Let me wrap with this one. I've heard you say that all 3 state teams in the NFL, Jags, Bucks, Dolphins, will win their divisions. But what if I told you that I had a crystal ball here in front of me? Uncle Paul, he's looking at the crystal ball. And only one of them actually won the division. Who would it be?
Only one of them actually won the division. Oh, wow. You're going to call me a Jags homer, but I think it's the Jags. I mean, before last season, all right, going into last season, everybody was saying, hey, the Jags are going to dominate this division for years to come. and they were on the verge of dominating that division last year. They were 8-3, just poor. The best record in the league at the time, or would have had the best record in the league had they won that following game. And then they just melt down at the end of the season. And now suddenly everybody just say, "Oh, the Houston Texans, they're this great team." No, the Jags gift wrapped them the division last year. The Jags are going to have a chip on their shoulder this year. Trevor Lawrence obviously signed the big contract. The obvious answer would be the Bucks because most people think their division is the weakest. But I just think the Houston Texans were a one-hit wonder last year and will come back to reality. And I'm going to say the Jags would be the one team to win their division this year. You're probably thinking your Dolphins, right?
I actually agree with you, and that's how I know that the crossover is over.